Good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, June 6th, 2024. I didn't have broadcast yesterday, but technically yesterday was the 1 year anniversary of this broadcast of the S&P Roadmap service. I have done trade rooms in the past. I have done, courses. We did a course for 3 months with a group a year or two ago. And so it's not my first rodeo here, but this is the first 1 year anniversary of the S&P Roadmap specifically. So thanks for being here if you're here, and hopefully this has helped some of you to learn how to read the market and manage risk and find really good trade opportunities. And so I want to jump in and take a look at what happened here yesterday. Not going to spend the whole morning just waxing on about the service or anything. So we'll go back. And before I jump up to the higher time frames, I do want to mention a couple good rotations that we were anticipating over the last couple months that might be interesting to look at. So let's look at what happened here yesterday. If you guys recall, I did not have my broadcast, but I put out the news report in the morning, gave it to you guys. And in that news report, I said that for the bullish side of things, which we were in a strong market, ideally, we wanted to see the bulls hold above the previous daily high. So when the market opened, we got a nice healthy pullback. And yes, there were some opportunities to short aggressively there on the first couple tests of the FMA. You might have actually caught a pretty decent little pullback there. Obviously, no hold off the 200 here for a nice bounce higher. So that might have been a stop out if you were looking to buy the 200 there for the bounce. But the main thing I want to talk about here is that price was never able to hold below the previous daily high, right? So it pulled back, got down, got 5-6 points through it. And then right here, you can see they came back in, basically came right to the holy orange power level. If you bought the pullback to the holy orange power level on that second test, you got in with maybe a point of risk there. And then you caught this whole rally for the rest of the day. So the main thing here I want to point out is we were looking for the bulls to defend the previous daily high, and if they could do that, we were expecting a continued push. And so out of the open, a little bit tricky because we got the pullback. They did duck through the previous daily high, even had trouble off the back end of the 200 and the VWAP on the way down, looking very bearish as we were starting to break back down through the previous daily high. But then what happened is they recovered, and then we just started to get this beautiful rally. And the rally itself, like I said, started from the holy orange power level here, and then from there it was a beautiful step up the moving averages. We just kind of rode the fast moving average and then got up through that and just kept riding that fast moving average right out. And there's our crossover. And then it was just a really strong rally. As you can see, the pullbacks to the 200 still working beautifully in a nice aggressive market. And most of the pullbacks couldn't even get to the 200, right? It was just such an aggressive push that there wasn't enough steam for the bears there to even get back to that mean, if you will, right? So it kept going. You got perfect opportunities here to buy around the 200 to ride this thing up all day long. So if you got a little chopped up here out of the open, the end of the day or midday, or I should say an hour after the open and onward throughout the rest of the day, you had really good opportunities to jump on in with limited risk and a lot of upside, right? So what else notable here? We did get a discrete pullback right off of the roadmap level to the upside that we were expecting to be resistance. And then when they got to the next roadmap, which was a major swing, they kind of petered out here, but then notice what happened. They held, ducked in, and then continued to rally, right? And then even came right to our next roadmap level, had trouble, got above it, and literally tried to hold above it nearly to the tick here multiple times, got back below, got back above it, tried to hold, and then bam, came right back to it, and then we continued ripping. So even the levels we had above us here as price was coming higher, you actually could have made a little bit money trying to short it to the downside. But the key thing you wanted to note is that it was never able to stay below the fast moving average on those pullbacks, right? We got one here where it finally got to the 200, and if you would have shorted it, you should have known to take profit right there in case this very scenario happens. And sure enough, you know, it kept going. And I wouldn't have been trying to fade this type of move. I much rather would have been buying this to the upside, right? So shorting this stuff, probably not the best idea. And then just kept going, held the 200 again. This right here is one of those little tricky situations. And then they continued going, and right at the end of the day, you even had two more opportunities to buy the 200. Super limited risk to get that last 5-point pop at the end of the day, 5-6 points. So pretty awesome rally yesterday. The bulls did exactly what we wanted them to do, which was to hold the previous daily high. And then we were expecting a push to retest the all-time high. And then who knows what was going to happen when they got there. And sure enough, we're testing right now, coming into the pre-market session here. We've just been testing the all-time highs and just having a lot of trouble. You know, the bulls have been having a lot of trouble getting through the all-time high. So if we were to zoom out, let's go up to the higher time frames here and look at where price is right now and where it's chopping around. They're right here at the all-time high, right? We're just kind of peeking into it, just got to peek above it, and just kind of a lot of trouble here now as we come into the open at the all-time high. Now, I did want to mention, if we were to zoom out and look at kind of the bigger picture here, I think probably the most proud thing that I shared, or something that I'm most proud of that I shared in the S&P Roadmap here and over the last couple of months, is the fact that on Halloween, when all the stars were aligning down here for the bulls a couple days before Halloween, on Halloween I warned you guys of the Halloween rally, and that was literally a day or two after the major low that we made back 2 days before Halloween or whatever, right? 2-3 days. And I warned you guys that everything in the cards was hinting at an attempt to try and push back, like to really get a major bounce to come retest that all-time high. Why? Because we had monthly signals for the bulls, we had weekly signals, again, potential signals for the bulls, we had a closed daily signal for the bulls, the 4-hour had a beautiful signal down there, and we were in a very aggressive down market, right? So when that happened, and on Halloween, I could even pull up the news report, I warned you guys, with that Halloween rally scenario, bolstering all the signals we're seeing, there is potential for us to get a huge rip. And let's just see what happened here. I mean, it was just a rip your face off rally for 3-4 days after Halloween, just ripping, little trouble around the major previous swing high, and then ripped out from there, created a new swing high, and completely changed the trend, right? You're in this downtrend, lower highs, lower lows, and then bam, we finally get up through it, push to new highs, and the whole trend finally broke, but we had already called it back on October 31st, right? So beautiful rotation we caught, and then from there, if you were in some much bigger trade, if you had an option or whatever, you should have captured over 1,000 points to the upside. Just from that one call back on October 31st, and then we were anticipating a much larger rotation back down for a while, right? It was like a month where we kept getting these signals and clues, and the pullbacks were happening, but they weren't going anywhere. And then we were talking about, hey, we got to get through these dividing lines, this 50%, and it never was. It would pull back, almost get there, pop out again. Pull back, almost get below, pop out again. So for a while, we were anticipating, and finally, we get the beautiful peak above and fail. We got below 50% of the previous week, and at that point, back at basically the first 2 days of April, we were warning you about the possibility of a much larger pullback that we were anticipating here for a couple weeks, and finally we held below the 50%. So back on April 4th, April 5th, we were already expecting, because they held below 50% the previous week, that there's a lot of high time frame clues for a much larger pullback. And as of April 5th, you had an opportunity to capture about a 200-300 point pullback until we came right down here on April 19th of this year. If you guys remember, April 19th was the scene of the crime for the major bullish potential rotation, and we were right at a major retracement area that typically holds. And sure enough, talked about the potential, I think the day after, when we broke through the high of that signal candle, that a lot of clues for an attempt now for the bulls to come all the way back up, and here we are, right? So I'm pretty proud of the stuff we've gone through here. This is just a couple months of some of the larger rotations we were able to kind of catch within the first couple days of the bigger move, and you had an opportunity to make a lot of money in the direction of those calls. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump up and take a look at what the charts are saying for this morning. Hope you guys out there on YouTube have a great day.